Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara. Complete game shutout from Sandy. We're digging into that with Isaac Azout, who was there at the ballpark, eyeballs on Sandy, plus recapping on the deadline and the moves, or lack of, that the Marlins made, and looking ahead to this Cubs series and beyond on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Marlins, your daily Marlins podcast with me, Peter Pratt. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter, of course, at MiamiMarlins_UK. Subscribe to the pod. Yes, it's available everywhere, and it's free. You can get it for free wherever you want. Also, hit subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching. Greetings! You can see me, and you can see my guest. Isaac Azout is in the house. Isaac, how are we doing, brother?
Doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's been too long since we've done this.
It definitely has, because the YouTube channel was not live the last time we spoke. So that says we haven't spoken for like at least over a month. Way too long, albeit the Fish Stripes guys and the content machine that is Fish Stripes keeps you busy, no doubt about it. You know, there's content, live streams coming out. You know, literally it feels like daily as well. It's almost like a daily pod in itself. So how are you doing? And firstly, how was the game last night?
Wow. Well, we're a little biased in going to yesterday's game. It was Sandy Alcantara Day, and I was a little nervous after that first inning. He loaded the bases with one out. Boy, oh boy, like we said, before we started recording, he's not exactly Mark Burley out there in fielding, but he was able to get out of it. And from that point on, it was vintage Sandy Alcantara. He struck out 3 guys only, but he went the complete game through 83 pitches from innings 2 to 9. That is what I call vintage Sandy. It's not the guy that strikes out 10 and walks 3, not the guy that strikes out 14 and walks 4. It's the guy that strikes out 3 batters and does it in a very efficient way.
No doubt about it. 3 Ks for Sandy. That's all he needs. He's not even after the Ks. He's after just ground ball machine, get it rolling, couple of fly balls in there, couple of, misfields and zings over to first base. It was the full plethora, I think, from Sandy. But when you're sitting there, and you were sat right behind home plate last night as well, so you had literally the bird's eye scout's view. I'm shocked you didn't have the speedo up, kind of tracking the speed he was throwing at. But just how different does it look when Sandy's on the mound versus other guys?
It's fast. It's premium velocity. He's 97, 98 with the movement that he can generate on his pitches. Yeah. It's remarkable. You can see Joey Votto right after as he made the last out. He even told Sandy, like, wow, like, well done. It's phenomenal. We are right behind home plate, so we're able to see the radar gun behind the center field wall, as well as just seeing the ball hit Stallings' glove instantly. I don't know how anybody, much less, major leaguers, can make contact at, the way they do. But Sandy, it really is a pleasure to watch him, especially so close. My girlfriend was like, he throws really fast. Yeah, he does.
He definitely does. He was absolutely on fire yesterday. Are you thinking he wins the NL Cy?
Yeah. So we said it, I think, about a couple months ago. All-Star is an obvious statement. Cy Young probably, and MVP is the one that's up for debate, in my opinion. I think he's a surefire Cy Young Award winner at this point anyway. He had a little bit of a slump, quote unquote, in his last 2 starts. That Pittsburgh game, which he struck out 10 guys. Yeah. And that start against the Mets where they got him. Starling Marte got him, and he came right back out and threw a complete game shutout. So I would say, unless Corbin Burnes leads the Brewers into a crazy run in the second half, it's Sandy's award to lose.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the MVP one is interesting and up for grabs. The kind of ascension of Austin Riley recently is he is absolutely scorching. He's also $200 million, I think, richer as well. So, signs his extension. Yeah, typically from what I've seen anyway, and when extensions are signed, players kind of cool off a little bit. So, let's hope that the extension kind of weighs him down a bit. It's definitely for Avi Garcia this year, it's definitely weighed him down that $50 million or whatever. So, no doubt. But Sandy Alcantara, I think, nailed on Cy Young winner for the Fish. The MVP, I think, still is right in. It's up there. It's possible, and it feels a bit like when Stanton went on that run, where, and for me as a UK fan, I used to make sure I'd watch at least the first inning, and the Marlins seemed to get in this groove. D. Gordon leading off. If you remember, Big G was in the 2-hole, which was kind of like unique at that point.
Yeah.
Big D. Gordon would get on base. Next thing is there'd be a 2-run shot from Stanton. You'd be like, oh boy, here we go. And that'd be me. I'd be like, that's me done. I'm going to sleep. But, it's going to be funny because you got so many eyeballs in on these like Stanton at-bats. It's the same. And we saw that with Bally Sports. I think Jeremy Taché put it out earlier today to say the Bally Sports viewing figures for a Sandy start, it's 20% more than anyone else. So people want to see Sandy, no doubt. And I think that's going to be the real story for the Fish as we kind of head into August and September. Can he do it? I think he can. Like, if he does, he will deserve it because the Marlins are not going to be in the postseason this year. So to win the MVP like Stanton did, when you're not on a postseason team, I think he will have earned it, and it will be unanimous almost if he does. So we'll wait and see on that one. Final thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, in 2014, I think Kershaw was the last pitcher to win the MVP, and that was to barely edge out Stanton. That was the year that Stanton's season was cut short with a fastball to the face by Mike Fiers. So I think maybe it's possible, but I'm under the assumption that I think it should go to a position player, someone that's in there every single day and probably brought his team to at least close to a postseason spot. But, at least just the fact that it's a conversation to have is amazing. So kudos to Sandy to be the Cy Young Award winner. And the fact that he's going to get some first place votes for MVP is just amazing.
Absolutely. And what we got to see as well post-game yesterday was Pablito. Pablito was still here, and Pablito giving Sandy the Gatorade shower, which was great to see. Sandy took it like an absolute king. He takes everything like a king. He just stood there and said, yeah, just soak me, baby. No need for Mag Sierra running and missing with the ice bucket. He spoke after the game as well, or was asked about it after the game anyway, Sandy, around Pablo and how happy he is for him to be around. I mean, the dust has settled now on the deadline, mate. There was a lot of buzz, a lot of chatter. Clearly, teams are calling on Pablo. Sounds like momentum brewed with the Yankees, the Dodgers too, it seems, maybe one or two others. A deal wasn't done. When we kind of sit back and reflect on that now, how are you feeling about that specifically?
Well, I think Fish Sharps did a good job of mentioning that, is that the number one reason to maybe not trade him is that's Sandy Alcantara's best friend. He's been outspoken about that, and they love having each other next to each other in that clubhouse, in that locker room. So I think that would have maybe made Sandy a little bit, distraught. It's the last thing you want to do is piss off your ace. I was under the assumption that he was going to get dealt. I was pretty certain, but I think that it might happen in the offseason. Unfortunately, they didn't do much else, obviously, aside from that one deal, which I'm sure we'll get into, but I would have liked to see a lot more. However, according to the reports, it was a Gleyber Torres centered deal with the Yankees. I'm glad they didn't go that route.
Me too.
I wouldn't have liked that. I was hoping for one of those young shortstop prospects that they have in their system. But if that was it, if it was Gleyber Torres that's the main piece, I'm glad they didn't go that route.
Oh, me too. And I saw something today on Twitter that kind of it piqued my interest, I'm not going to lie, where you're thinking, okay, if they were to pull that deal, it's like my read on it was that the Yankees thought they had a deal done because they actually went and dealt a pitcher like 10 minutes before that. And you're thinking, okay, they're expecting to get Pablo Lopez, maybe someone else. I don't know, but let's assume they thought they were going to get Pablo. So they've dealt the pitcher, Montgomery. Like you said, Gleyber Torres was seemingly one of the big pieces in this return. That then makes you question, okay, you're getting in Gleyber. Where's he going to play? Like, where is he going to fit in? What does that mean for Jazz? What does that mean for other guys? Like, what would that have meant? Or what are the indicators there? If the Marlins are thinking about adding another middle infielder, that is an interesting question and puzzle. Something that maybe won't be clear for a while, but I don't know. I mean, the problem I think for the Fish now, I was talking about it on yesterday's episode with Sam Clark, was Miggy Rowe, the glove is great, but the league has moved on now where it is not a glove first position anymore, shortstop. You just need so much more thump, and you need much more of a bat there in that position these days, and Miggy's never going to offer that. And so I think they really do need to think about how they go about that position. What about you?
Yeah, the fact that Gleyber was someone that was reportedly targeted, and Gavin Lux was another reported name out there. Those are the second base guys. Gleyber Torres isn't going to play shortstop for you. Gavin Lux is mainly a second baseman. That shows to me is that they haven't moved on from the fact that Jazz Chisholm could maybe be a shortstop. We saw him briefly there in 2020, a little bit more in 2021. I think he profiles much better at second base. Arm strength, he's looked so comfortable out there. He's made some silly errors once in a while, but he looks really good in second base. So the fact that they were targeting those two guys specifically shows to me that, hey, they haven't moved on from the fact that maybe Jazz Chisholm can be their everyday offensive-oriented shortstop, like you mentioned.
The other rule of thought that along this theme anyway is the Loud Marlins thought, which is maybe that the Marlins are looking to move Jazz Chisholm at some point. Clearly, the issues right now with health mean that it was probably not possible at this deadline. But could you ever see the Marlins moving Jazz Chisholm at this moment in time? Even in this off season. I mean, for me, it just makes absolutely zero sense. So I'm more like you. Maybe they're thinking, listen, Jazz, we're going to need to get you back into shortstop. Okay, there's going to be some defensive struggles there, but the stick's going to play. We need another stick in second base. I think that's the most likely, right?
Yeah, I mean, since Jose, they have not had someone gain national attention the way Jazz has, and the way that he's performing enough to back it up. It would make less than 0 sense to move him. You're just going to make fans angrier than they already are due to the product on the field. You're trading arguably your best hitter, your franchise player aside from Sandy Alcantara. It would make no sense to me. I don't know why that would even be considered a thought for the front office. He has so many years of control. He's dirt cheap right now. And he's a fun player to have. He's your leadoff hitter. He can be your 3 hitter. He can be your cleanup hitter. He can be your 9th batter, and he can play center field if you ask him to. So to me, that theory didn't make much sense to me at all.
That is another interesting flex in this one. I remember way back, Glenn Geffner, I think, mentioned that possibility. Yeah. It was just a suggestion. It wasn't that it was reported or he was, heard that. He was just saying the Marlins need to, I'm paraphrasing, but effectively he was saying the Marlins maybe need to think outside the box to handle this center field situation. Maybe Jazz Chisholm could profile as that kind of player. I don't know. Something along those lines from Geff. When I heard that, I was like, wow, that could make a ton of sense. They ended up going down with Jesus Sanchez effectively for the majority of the season in center field. Yeah. Now they're kind of deviating a little bit away from that. But Jesus Sanchez specifically, what have you made of his year this year? I know it's not been amazing with the stick, no doubt, but I do wonder how much this center field role has impacted him more generally.
Yeah, you beat me to it. I think they did him a disservice by having him. This is his first full season. This was his first full season. And having him learn an entirely new position. He hadn't played that since single A, if I'm not mistaken. He hadn't played center field in a very long time. He has the arm. He has the speed to maybe fake it out there. But to put him in big Lone Depot Park where you have to take care of Soler and Avi in the corners and really make up some ground there, and to learn a whole pitching staff of like the whole league again for a whole full season, I don't think they did the right thing there. I don't know if you've been on Twitter. Breaking news here: he's going to be optioned tomorrow to AAA.
Jesus Sanchez.
Yes.
Wow. For Peyton Burdick.
We were wondering before. Yep. We were wondering before what the move would be. Well, there you go.
There you go.
Jesus Sanchez being sent down. So that's tough for him. He's such a great guy. He's best smile on the team. But he'll figure it out. To me, he's too talented of a hitter to not be successful. We know he has no approach at all, but the combination of zero approach and being as talented with the stick as he is, that's what you get, a 200 hitter that can hit some home runs. So hopefully he just learns a little bit on an approach and gets better, and we'll see him again before the year's end.
Wow. There you have it. Breaking news on Locked On Marlins. It's a shame this isn't an actual live stream, but nevertheless, this will be coming out real soon. So Jesus Sanchez will be optioned, and Peyton Burdick will be promoted from AAA. Peyton Burdick specifically, a view on him this year. It looked like he's been performing well at AAA, as was Blade. So interesting that they've kind of gone Blade, Burdick, bang, get up there, boys, and let's see what you can do.
Yeah, well, hey, they're both 2019 draft picks. Right state for Burdick, Vanderbilt for Blade. He had an okay year this year, Burdick. I know in 2021 he had that awesome season where they were, 2019 where they were saying, hey, maybe for Wilson Contreras. They said no. And he's sort of come down to earth again this year, and he's spent the whole year in AAA, putting good walk numbers, striking out a little bit much, but he walks and he hits for power. So I think that's sort of the new game of baseball. And I think he'll be fine. I think he profiles well in center field. I am curious to see where they put him or Blade in center. I think in a perfect world, Blade would go to left. They keep Avi in right. Well, he's hurt right now, so I really don't know what they're going to do. Honestly, maybe Blade in right. We'll see. It's going to be some interesting defensive scrambles starting tomorrow in Wrigley Field, which is not an easy
Absolutely.
outfield.
It's not. No, it's an awkward one out there, I guess. And you got the ivy and the walls to worry about too. So yeah, that is interesting. The fact that Jesus Sanchez option, Burdick up. Obviously, De La Cruz is still there, so maybe De La Cruz will play some. Billy Hamilton played center field yesterday, so they're mixing and matching now. Luke Williams, I guess, had a career day as well yesterday, which was interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, Williams looked on fire. I mean, let's not forget. I mean, let's talk about Luke Williams. I mean, he did the business yesterday. He basically was doing his best John Birdie impression, in my opinion. But what do you make of him?
Spraying the ball all over the place. He was someone that him and Astudillo had pegged for AAA for designation at some point. But Luke Williams has done the most with his opportunity so far. There was a point where he was one of the hotter hitters on the team, and he's getting a little bit more stars, especially against lefty Mike Minor on the mound yesterday. And he was spraying line drives everywhere. He was stealing bases. He was making things happen for this team, for a really depleted lineup that Sandy had behind him yesterday. Yeah. He was a John Birdie, like you said, and it was good to see. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I think it's not a shocker to me that Birdie goes down and the juice really just kind of sapped away from this lineup. It really did. And to Donnie's point a few weeks back, again, I'm paraphrasing, but effectively saying we've just got a ton of the same dudes that have got the same holes in their swings too, and the power slider just is strikeout galore because they're all just the same kind of dudes, and they lack the contact skills, they lack the mobility, and it just you get into this kind of roll fish where the pitchers just take control. But yeah, great to see Luke Williams doing that. Let's get the first ad out the way because I'm 6 minutes out late on that one. But we've dug into it and there's been breaking news, so I'll tell my bosses that. This episode, guys, it's brought to you by our good friends over at BlueNile.com. Isaac, I can't recall, you're not engaged yet, right?
No, I'm not engaged.
Well, this ad could be for you then, brother. BlueNile.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating custom engagement rings to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece. So if you're thinking about engagement, Blue Nile, they got simple online tools to let you choose the diamond shape, size, bigger is better, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's jewelers then handcraft her perfect engagement ring. Each one of a kind, bespoke jewelry for your bride to be. And once the ring is on it, you then got to think ahead. What else am I going to get her in the future? So you're then looking for fine jewelry and having trouble choosing? Don't worry, Blue Nile, they got jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. So make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and going now, it's the Blue Nile anniversary sale. So you can save up to 40%, 40, on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. You can shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Okay. I know I can see Isaac typing away there, thinking about BlueNile.com.
Exactly.
No doubt. So, let's kind of get into this Cubs series. Then we'll kind of maybe circle back around to some of the deadline bits that didn't happen maybe, and maybe did. But the Cubs series now, Burdick's up. Interesting news, exciting. It's another watchable piece. What about the fact that Edward Cabrera also is expected to be up as well? I think Eddie's going to be back from his IL stint and his rehab starts, likely to take the ball on Friday. Yes. For me, I tweeted about it earlier, this is such a critical period for Edward Cabrera. In my opinion, the Marlins and him both need to see he's got to pitch out now every 5 days, right through the rest of the year. I think that is so critical to the Marlins in terms of what, and to Edward Cabrera, but also as they head into an offseason, which will be huge, and they will need to move some arms. Cabrera needs to either be a inked-in starter or someone they can move.
Yeah, he needs to stay healthy. That's the thing with him. He's got to stay healthy. We've seen it when he is healthy and he's available, he wipes people out. He's looked great in his rehab starts. I've asked, if people have been paying attention, he's throwing 98, 99. He's throwing those 92 mile-an-hour changeups. So he looks good. He looks healthy. I think this is, like you said, it's a huge 2 months for him, August and September. You don't want to put too much weight on anyone's September numbers, especially of pitchers, in my opinion, depending on who you're playing. So this really is a big 2 months to see what Miami has. Luzardo's back. Edward is back. You have Sandy. You have Pablo still. You have Trevor Rogers, who's on the, IL. So you just got to see who's in that rotation and who's expendable in a way, who maybe goes to the bullpen. They got to see. And now is the time since, unfortunately the season is all but over, competitively anyway.
It is. I'm with you. Just the one guy you didn't mention there in the rotation, Braxton Garrett this year. Boy, oh
Oof.
boy,
I'm so sorry.
what progression? What's been going on with the Brax? He's absolutely turned it around. Because like, let's all be honest. Heading into this year, we're all seeing him as like, how can the Marlins maybe trade him for anything effectively? Like we're at that stage, I think, with Brax where I'm not sure he's ever going to be a major league caliber starting pitcher. But what a turnaround for Brax.
Yeah, this was another example of Mel Stoudemire Jr. waving his magic wand on one of these pitchers and getting the absolute best out of him. This is the pitcher that Miami saw when they drafted him in 2016. Obviously, it was a previous regime, but wow, first-round draft pick, left-hander, crazy curveball. I asked, our good buddy Eli, what's better, Luzardo's off-speed pitch or Braxton's? He's like, well, Luzardo's is a little bit better because it plays off the fastball, but Braxton's has been amazing. He struck out 11 guys. I think he's done that twice this year now.
Twice, yep.
And just what that means for this team, the fact that, hey, we got another starting pitcher, a young, controllable arm that, hey, we can plug in confidently in the middle or back end of our rotation. So that is ginormous for this team. I can't believe I failed to mention him.
And I wasn't doing that on purpose. It's just like, for me, thinking about Eddie, it's like, can Eddie come in, show that he can stay healthy? And to your point as well, like, you got to be careful with these numbers, but the strength of schedule the Marlins face is the hardest of any team, I believe, for the next 2 months. So all the way out, the Marlins are going to be facing tough lineups, teams in the hunt effectively. So his numbers will be real, in my opinion. Like, it's not going to be softball city going on, playing the Nats every day. Like, Eddie's numbers are going to be real. It's going to be interesting. Brax's are going to be real. I think Brax has had some quite easy matchups as well, to be honest with you. Like, the Nats a couple of times and the Reds. And, so I think I'm intrigued to see how he finishes up. But the key bit there is Brax real? Is Eddie healthy? Then that gives you confidence to maybe move on to Pablo Lopez to think these guys can actually fill the rotation and go and get that impact back. Because Braxton Garrett alone, it's not going to be enough to go and get a stud hitter. Like, it isn't. Like, it's going to need Pablo to get an absolute difference maker. It is. And so I'm intrigued to see the way it goes. And, and equally, like you said, Mel Stoudemire is the man, right? This all comes back to Mel. He's the most valuable dude in baseball. I said yesterday on the show, if you traded Mel Stoudemire, he gets more of a haul than Juan Soto, I'm telling you. The value to this club has been, like, a 20 WAR per season, I would say, for Mel Stoudemire. He's absolutely wild. So I'm intrigued. Where's your head at thinking about managerial and coaching pieces? Clearly the other thread knocking around post-deadline. I think Craig Mish reporting. Don Mattingly, uncertain on the future. Where's your gut feel taking you on this one?
I think it's all but certain that this will be Donnie's last year. There's going to be no shortage of, front office positions for him to take whenever he wants.
Yeah.
If I were a betting man, I would put a lump sum on the fact that he doesn't manage in 2023 for the Marlins anyway. It was a great run. He's been here since 2016. Obviously, has had some tough teams to endure from 2018, 2019, 100-loss season in there. It hasn't been easy. I think he's done the best he can with the club that he's been given. He's a great guy, one of the best guys in all of baseball, never throws his players under the bus. And it's been an honor for me to speak to him as often as I am able to. But yeah, I think it's time for a change. And I think the front office realizes that. And it's not based on him being a bad manager. It's just, hey, it's time for a change. As simple as that.
I'm with you. James Rowson in the mix to replace him, or will it be just a kind of complete reshuffle?
From what I hear, no. I don't think they go with James Rowson.
Yeah, interesting, because at the time when he was brought in, you were thinking, he's the next in line. Mm-hmm. Obviously coming off, a huge offensive season with the Minnesota Twins. But let's be honest, like, the offense has regressed, I would say, since James Rowson's been around. Like, the guys are getting worse and they go to other teams and other guys start to hit and find themselves. So, I don't think his credentials fully play. I'm with you. I think Donnie, his last year as the manager, I think not the last year with the Marlins. I think he stays with the Fish, and I don't think Rowson takes over. So, couple of other comments. I really want to circle back onto this deadline, mate, and kind of get into a few of the trade that was made, equally some of the ones that weren't, aside from Pablo. But before we do that, guys, reminder, this episode, it's also brought to you by our good friends over at Built Bar. So if you haven't tried those Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. That is a massive statement, but Built Bar Puffs, they are that good. And they've got tons of flavors, tons of flavors. So let me introduce you to the new favorite. It's cookie dough chunk puffs. cookie dough chunk puffs. Boy, oh boy, they've got a light, chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks. And of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. And they're only 160 calories and a whopping 15 grams in protein. Boy, oh boy, absolutely perfect. So if you're liking what you're hearing, get yourself over to built.com. You can use the promo code LOCKED15. It's LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Reminder, promo code LOCKED15. All right, Isaac, let's wrap up here, mate, with the deadline. And the only move that was made, which was, I felt actually a nice move. I was impressed that this return. Bass and Pop, plus a player to be named later. And Groshans comes back from the Blue Jays. What was your reaction to this one?
I mean, yeah, I said it on the Fish Stripes Live before the day before the deadline that, okay, they're at least going to make one move, and that move has to be to trade Anthony Bass. You're going to sell high on quite possibly the top 15 reliever in the National League this year, maybe in all of baseball. He has been phenomenal. It's amazing. If it weren't for Braxton Garrett, he would be my comeback player of the year. So you saw that trade coming for sure. The Blue Jays were a good match. So I was happy with that trade. You trade two right-handed relief pitchers that are so fickle. So you trade them for a fourth prospect in the Toronto Blue Jays system. He's had some inconsistencies. Jordan Groshans, shortstop, third baseman, probably winds up at third base. Not the best defensive shortstop, but that's where they're going to play him. He made his organizational debut yesterday, and he played at short. I think he went 1 for 4, 1 for 5.
Yeah,
it was an all right trade. B plus. My thought was that the combination of Bass and his $3 million cheap option for next year, plus Pop's infinite amount of years of control, could have netted you something a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But it's a fine trade. They attacked the area of need for this team, which is left side of the infield, upper minors depth, and that's what this guy is. Jordan Groshans. He has a chance to be an everyday regular if he starts to impact the ball a little bit more. But it was a fine trade.
Completely agree. Perfect assessment. No need to spend any more time on that one. One specific guy we haven't talked about, and that is still on the roster and hit a home run last night. Jesus Aguilar remains with the Marlins. I am completely shocked that they didn't move him for anything, like anything at all. I'm shocked that Jesus Aguilar remains on this roster. What was your take on that one?
I didn't get it. I thought that whether they could find a trade, it's tough. He is owed a little bit of money, and he's not performing very well. So it was going to be tough to find a partner. But if they, past August 2nd and they couldn't trade him, you simply, you move on and you give Lewin the rest of these 2 months. We don't know what we're going to have from Lewin Diaz. If I were them, it would behoove them to say, okay, let's let Lewin play every day at first base. Cooper, let him DH. He's arguably your best pure hitter on the team. And just move on from Jesus Aguilar. He's an expiring contract who's struggling mightily, and they refuse to move on. And I don't understand. That's the refusal to move on from him, plus not doing a few other moves that I thought they should have made, makes the trade deadline a C minus for me.
Oh, I agree. The trade deadline was seriously underwhelming in many ways. I think we wanted action. I think just because this roster is so imbalanced and there's so many challenges the Marlins are facing here, like it feels like action needs to be made, which is why it's slightly frustrating to me when I hear Kim saying, hey, we're just sitting there seeing what comes to us. More of a passive approach, right? I'd like to see some aggression. Yeah. Let's think back when Mike Hill's rolling around. He's making a move at the deadline, moving Zach Gallen that was like looking like an absolute stud, and going and getting Jazz Chisholm, highly touted prospect, but was hitting like shit at that point as well. But big ballsy move that became franchise altering. When you then look back, the Ozuna deal, it's a different situation. I completely get it, but you go out there, Ozuna for Sandy and Gallen, and I think Mags, maybe Yamamoto as well. That is the best trade you've ever seen in your life, to be honest with you. So, I didn't like the passive approach. And for me, that is either arrogance or not the truth. One of the two. Something didn't feel right with that for me. Like the Marlins need to be aggressive. They've got the assets to do anything they want to. If they wanted to get Soto, they could have got Soto. Let's break it down. They could have done. And okay, they maybe don't want to pay him, but nevertheless, like passive to me was a bit of a slap in the face to us as fans. Like I think the fans are feeling a little bit kind of disheartened right now. But what if you were if you had one move you could make at this deadline that didn't happen, what would you have tried to have done differently? Maybe I'm putting you on the spot a little bit though.
I'm half on the Pablo trade. I think whether they got a good guy or not, or they decided to keep him, I think it was fine. So I think it was a win-win situation whether you traded him or kept him. It wouldn't have been to trade Pablo to me. Just move on from Jesus Aguilar. It's either that, whatever way you can, or make some moves for those AA, AAA bullpen guys like Andrew Nardi, Josh Simpson. All of them are going to have to be put on the 40-man roster at some point. Now Burdick is already finally up, so we know that. But they have a lot of moves they have to make before the end of the season, and they could have done something about that yesterday, and they didn't. So that's going to hurt. So that would have been the move. Just create some roster spots, DFA or trade Jesus Aguilar if you could have. Great guy, one of the leaders of this clubhouse. You got such great value for him in 2020. You picked him up, had a great year in 2020, had a great year in 2021.
Yep.
It's okay to move on. You know, he's an expiring contract that you're obviously not going to pick up for next season. So I think that was the most crazy non-move for me, was that all three of those guys, Lewin, Cooper, and Aggie, are still all on the major league roster.
No doubt. I mean, let's be honest, two of them performed last night. They were the game winners in the game, and Lewin sat on the bench. So, it's funny the way, it works, sure. But I'm completely with you. It's funny, right, where the Phillies, today the news drops, they've DFA'd Didi Gregorius. So Gregorius is out of town for the Phils. Like, they're thinking, hey, we're clearing the decks. We're going a different direction. I don't know. Maybe it's the injuries more generally for the Fish, the lack of offense around. I don't know. Maybe they're thinking we can just keep one as a bench bat. But the problem we face, and this is what you touched on, is you can't prioritize playing time over Lewin. And, Lewin, we just have to see what we got. We know what we're getting with the glove. It's sexy. Oof. Does the stick play? Does the stick play or not? And if it doesn't play, they need to rethink what they do in the offseason at first base, because otherwise there's going to be a big problem, because Garrett Cooper, needs to sit in that DH spot more often than not, in my opinion. If indeed they stick with Coop, I think he's into his final arb year as well. So many decisions to make for the Marlins, but so little time for us to get into it. We are bang out of it. So we'll wrap it up there. Isaac, where can everyone find you on Twitter? If they aren't watching the show and have the graphics to help them, where can they get you if they aren't already following you?
My first and last name, Isaac Azout, spelled normally ISAAC, AZOUT. Twitter, follow Fish Stripes guys, obviously Fish Stripes on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everything. We're there on all platforms, and follow us on the podcast streams as well.
You got it. And where do you normally sit when you go to the ballpark as well? Where's the usual?
Well, when I'm not in the press box, when I'm not in the press box, I like to sit third base side in the Marlins dugout if I can. We did splurge a little bit yesterday, and we were right behind home plate. Like, a lot of people saw us on TV, apparently. So, we're usually on the third base side. Sometimes right field. It's a great view. The ballpark is small enough where there's not a bad seat in the whole stadium. So, right field upper deck is one of my favorite spots as well.
Nice. Well, I hope to get myself over there real soon. It's probably going to be next year now. I feel like I'm going to go early in the year. I'm going to prioritize April, and when it's when we're still in the hunt, perhaps maybe May. I don't know. We'll see. But that's us out of here for Thursday's edition of Locked On Marlins. So thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow with a full series preview with the Cubs, and it's with the UK Cubs crew. So look forward to that one. In the meantime, enjoy the off day, and I'll be back tomorrow.